So without further ado, Coach Alvarez, here is what Ben Brust said earlier today. And you know how Brust rants tend to go whenever it comes to Badger football around these parts. Here is what Ben...
Or Badger basketball, for that matter.
Really, any rant, yeah. So I can't wait to see what Coach has to say about what Ben Brust said earlier today on Kyle Bruston Nortman on ESPN Wisconsin.
I am out of patience, and that is in regards to the Wisconsin Badgers. Luke Fickell, as the Wisconsin's football coach, has overpromised and underdelivered, 100%. The marketing campaign, I got fooled. I completely got fooled, because you know what? All that matters is the results on the field. Say what you want about the Badgers and the future of the program. I don't care. All I know is that I am so sick of Indiana football, what was the dump of the Big Ten. I don't care who they've played. Indiana is 10-0. And they beat the crap out of teams. And they have identity, and they brought in 15 transfers from James freaking Madison, and they are 10-0, and they're in that little playoff picture that they do a reveal show on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and you see their ranking, and you see what they do on the field, and you can't not be impressed. Meanwhile, I'm being told to be patient. Well, I'm done being patient. I'm done.
Well, Coach, welcome to the ESPN Wisconsin team. That's your teammate, Ben Brust. What'd you think of what Brust had to say earlier today?
Oh, I'm really impressed that he's impatient. What the hell's he been impatient about? Who the hell gives a shit? Ben Brust is impatient. Who cares? I can't believe that. He's impatient. What you been waiting for? Luke Fickell didn't make one promise when he took the job.
I tell you, Coach, Indiana, obviously they got a magical season, but, you get the right players, the right system, the right program. You did it here. You turned the whole program around, in 3 years. 1991 to after 3 years, 93 Rose Bowl. To do that, and the momentum, you have to really understand this head coach at Indiana is doing a great job in knowing his football team. Their schedule has been favorable, obviously, but they're winning, and having been a part of a similar situation like that on that 93 Wisconsin Badgers team, kudos to them. And I don't know where I know where he's coming from. That's just, it's hot take Ben. So,
Yeah, but he picks one team, right? You look at Nebraska, who has, arguably the best freshman quarterback in America.
Right.
You look at these other teams, Minnesota, Michigan State. There's a ton of teams that are struggling that you could compare. We're performing better than they are. And, we're still, Coach Fickell's still getting his program established. So, I think Brust is a little overdone with that.
Yeah, he's a little strong on that. I think Luke, we've shown improvement. The thing that's impressive with Indiana, he came in, he brought his best players from that championship team and won whatever the classification where they were.
Yeah.
And they can play. You see the NFL loaded with guys like that. So he brought the ones that could play at a higher level. They knew his system. He built a chemistry right away. It's impressive what they've done at Indiana. That's unprecedented. Come into the league and do that type of job as quickly as he's done it. Now, some of the stronger teams are not as good as they have been in the past. That's made it a little bit easier for them. But take nothing away from them. They've done an outstanding job. I think our program under Luke is getting better. I like the progress that they're making. I like the way they recruit.
So let me ask you guys this, because, and believe me, I don't want to come to Ben's defense by any means, but what I would like to do is present what I think is the argument that many fans are experiencing now. In the new NIL, transfer portal, quick change philosophy of college football, where Cignetti can go to Indiana and in a snap, they can go from one of the worst teams in the country last year to 10-0 in the college football playoff conversation this year. We've seen it with other teams. Michigan did it not that long ago, where they were kind of in that 7-8 win tier, and suddenly, boom, in a snap, they're in the college football
But
playoff.
they
year after
Harbaugh
year
had
after year.
years of. They gave him years to establish what he did.
And that's a great point.
There's more going on
they've
in
been working
Indiana.
on that.
I'll give you the transfers, but listen, I don't think their coffers are. It's like they got a mint in Bloomington, Indiana, where they're able to play all these players. I don't see that at Indiana University. I just don't see that. So there's really good coaching going on, and the players are responding. And that was my point earlier. Mm-hmm. It's kind of refreshing to see that, a well-coached football team. Tough nose, mistake free. There's no gimmicks going on at Indiana. There's just not, and they line up and they're going to hit you in the mouth.
And they were fortunate that he was able to brought those kids from James Madison, as Coach alluded to. Brought a bunch of guys who were workers.
The guys that knew his system, that were able to teach that system to those that were sitting there at Indiana already. So you got the meat and potatoes, not the guys that are there. As in most places, it's the guys you bring in, the guys that have won a championship, that know your system, that believe in your system, and can play, flat play. And they blended together. And again, that's coaching too. There's a lot of coaching goes on there when you're blending two teams.
So I've been of the philosophy with the Wisconsin Badgers over the last couple of years and looking ahead to the next couple of years still that, all right, give Luke Fickell 4 years to really transform the program to the vision that he has coming in, get a full recruiting class of his guys coming in, and get an opportunity to figure out a little bit of what works and what doesn't. I've said all along 4 years is I want to give this a full swing of 4 years to see where this thing stands in a couple of seasons. Is that the philosophy that you think is still appropriate in college football around the country, or do you think it is fair to enhance expectations?
I'll let Coach respond to this. He'll obviously have some more insight on this, but I look at Matt Rule came in at the same time as Fickell, right? Mm-hmm. Tarek alluded to it earlier, one of the best quarterback recruits in the country they get in Raiola, but they're struggling. They're 2-4 in the league, same overall record as Wisconsin, but I was also told that we're the only team that's played the number 1, 2, and 3 teams in the country in the same season since I don't know how many years. And so that says a lot about who we played. Granted, we didn't want to lose that USC game. Bama's Bama. We saw what they did down in Death Valley this weekend. We played some good football teams, and we got probably the best team in the country coming in Saturday night. So we got to be ready. I'm really excited to see how Coach Fickell and his staff use that bye week to prepare for this team and how we fare.
My input is that he's building a culture, right? And I think by coming back last year, winning the last 2 games, was showing that the resiliency of the program. This year he's come back off Alabama, won some games. Looking forward to see the stretch to get us into a bowl game. But I think it's just accelerated what we had. We used to have all tough guys, built a culture, and then all of a sudden we'd bring in a guy like Ron Dane or a guy like 𝘿𝘼𝙉𝙗, special guys. Now there's this NIL deal where this new money's coming in. If they could get a couple of special guys with
2 years
with the
in
money
a row,
they have,
2 years in a row, you lose your starting quarterback in a system that the quarterback's kind of important, right? And then you also lose your best defensive lineman, James Thompson, which we know the cupboards are bare there as far as depth chart's concerned. So you can't lose your best defensive lineman, your starting quarterback. So, yeah, you want to see what Coach was talking about, what the progress is with Coach Fickell and his staff with these players. That's what we want to see the last 3 games.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, that's where you go. It's not you have to win X amount of games or be in contention for the championship in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But you have to see improvement as you go along. And normally at the 4-year mark, your program should be in pretty good shape. It's very interesting to me. I read information on Nebraska. Being a graduate of Nebraska, I like to see what's going on there. They're going through the same thing there. You've got a new staff that came in. They're implementing their system, and everybody's anxious. They're impatient. They want things to happen now. And I'm hearing the same conversation. So I see improvement. The minute we don't see improvement, then we have issues. But you have to continue to recruit well. If you could go out and find some transfers that fit, somebody culturally fits our culture and blends into what you want, that can expedite the situation.
I agree, Coach. And the dollars that are going to the whole $21 million that are coming back in the fold, it's going to change the landscape. When we'll have more resources, and Coach will have more. Coach Fickell will have ways to implement that, and how you implement that, and that strategy. It's new to everybody, but there's going to be that opportunity out there to do what Coach is talking about.
Yeah, Tarek, we were told this, which I think we were both kind of our jaws hit the table, that to get a good quarterback, a really good quarterback in this country in college football, costs you $2 million. So you start to look at that $21 million, and of course we want a werewolf. We want a werewolf to get after the quarterback. So you're going to have to pay that D lineman probably $800,000. So you need a GM, a business manager, just like the NFL. Because they're going to have to delineate those resources, to Tarek's point, for sure.
But you still build the culture. You still have the guys.
Yeah, and Coach is right. From a recruiting standpoint, you got to recruit the right type of player, or in this day and age, pay the right type of player too that fits culturally in that locker room as well.
Coach, want to give you the final word on this stage of the conversation. I don't know who Nebraska's version of Ben Brust is that's impatient, but your final thoughts.
Well, everybody. The whole fans in general. It's not one guy spouting off. It's everybody.
Everybody.
Nebraska
Every
went
coach.
through the 90s.
Good. Sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
That's a team that went through the 90s. No one could stay on the field with them. Now they haven't been to a bowl game in 7 years. They're trying to get 6 wins. Yeah. That's how things can drop off in a hurry. So
sure can.
Absolutely. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Coach, something that's always, Tarek and I talk about it a lot, but it's always, since we were players for you, something that just sat with me just emphatically as far as how tough it is. It's hard to win. It is hard to win in this league, and Coach Alvarez said that. You cannot take any games for granted. It is tough. I don't care who it is. It is tough to win in this league. It's tough to win now more than ever in the landscape of college football. So that's it. It is.
Everybody's impatient.
We're seeing the parity everywhere.
Listen, the coaches are impatient, the players are impatient, the fans are impatient, the administration's impatient because everybody's got to win. Everybody's win. So Ben Brust is not alone. Everybody's trying to do it. Everybody's trying to build, and we continue to get better. But we got to figure out how to implement the dollars, and when this new landscape is difficult. And I think if you look at where we are, we're in the middle of the Big Ten. I think we're better than a lot of programs, but we got to continue to get better, and I think we will.
It's the Great Dane Huddle with Barry Alvarez on ESPN Madison.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Coach.
I have one piece of advice for Ben. Let us worry about the football part of it. He concentrate on basketball.
And with that,
Amen.
I will tell you, it's the Great Dane Huddle with Barry Alvarez here on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel.